Is Dan Gilmore, Chief Marketing Officer at Softeon. I want to thank you so much for joining us here on this demo/presentation session at ProMat 2021 virtual conference on Softeon Supply Chain Execution Platform. Appreciate your joining us here today. We have a lot of ground to cover in just 15 minutes, so I'm going to go through a lot of materials. Appreciate your joining us here today. We'll note that this broadcast actually was pre-recorded, and so as it's playing, if you have any questions, if you type in a question at the chat type function you should see nearby here, we should be able to, I should be able to address as many of them as I can. And if I don't get to everything, you can certainly visit us in the exhibit area, virtual exhibit area. Come to our booth. You'll be able to chat there. There's videos and white papers and other materials, brochures, things like that you want to take advantage of. So before I start talking about Softeon's platform, just want to note what Gartner, the analysts, have been writing about for a number of years there, and they're talking about a supply chain execution convergence platform. It talks about the growing need for supply chain organizations to do a better job of orchestrating, synchronizing processes and activities, across different functional, domains, even within just distribution itself. Second bullet point, leading edge supply chain organizations want to support end-to-end processes such as end-to-end fulfillment. With that regard at the bottom there for functional domains or application silos. And they talk about the difference between a portfolio, which means I have just a bunch of different sort of disparate solutions, and a true platform. And I will argue that Softeon provides an outstanding example of a supply chain execution convergence platform, such as Gartner is recommending. So you see here our broad suite of products, all built on a common platform, common data model. None of these products have been acquired. They've all been built in the same technology and framework, and all plug and play very easily together. That's why we use that Lego type analogy there. We really go to market with three main products. The number one, warehouse management. That's what started the company in 1999. And all the things that go around that, things like transportation management, slotting optimization, assembly and kitting, a yard management, a 3PL billing system, what we call resource management, which is labor management, but because we plan for and track equipment utilization as well, we kind of broaden the term there. So all of the functions and more that you need for a very rich warehouse management system, total capability. Then the other thing is the warehouse execution system. We'll go into that a little bit today. It's a newer type of application that can work right with the WMS or as a standalone solution, and it just provides a new level of optimization and orchestration than you can get even from advanced WMSs like Softeon. We'll talk about that today. And distributed order management, which we'll also address, which all has to do about optimal order sourcing, given all kinds of different variables and constraints. So we have other options. We have some planning solutions too. All can work hand in glove together. Our platform allows us to do things, for example, like take just some labor reporting capabilities from the resource management module and add it to the WMS without the need for the full module if you don't need really advanced features, engineered standards, and things of that nature. So it illustrates the benefit of this type of convergence platform that I was referencing here a couple slides ago. List of customers here. I'm not going to go through these in detail, but you see quite a laundry list of different customers on there. Many very large companies, as you see, as well as a number of smaller ones. They're very strong in the 3PL market. You see folks like UPS Supply Chain Solutions, Saddle Creek, and SEVA, and NFI, and DB Schenker over in Europe, et cetera. But we have proof points in virtually every vertical, number using multiple products across that platform that I shared before. And just will note that in April of 2020, UPS had a press release that announced they were building their smart warehouse of the future on a software backbone of Softeon WMS and WES. As I say to many companies and prospects, would certainly like to build the smart warehouse of the future for your company as well. So let's start talking very soon. So let's look at just a few very brief highlights of each of those three main areas that I talked about: WMS, WES, and distributed order management. So let's start with a few highlights of WMS. This is what we call our visual warehouse or our warehouse GUI function. It is a digital representation of whatever your physical layout in your building is, showing here, in a 2D format, a 3D, information. It's all digitized, all data driven. So you see there, like for example, there's 4 rows of racking, per bay, kind of going, up the rectangles there. And it allows you to get a whole bunch of answers to your questions, understand the health of your building, get very quick visual answers to questions that you may have through this kind of interface. And you'll note there also as well the travel distances that have been mapped out as a result of this function. Those distances are used in task assignment logic as well as in goal time calculation. So you can ask questions to this function like, show me every place in the building I have SKU 1, 2, 3. Show me every place I have lot 100. Show me the activity by transaction type so I can see if I've got things that I've put in the back of the warehouse that because I thought they were slow movers that are actually turning out to be hot mover, faster movers, and that I may want to think about some reslotting. And you can actually do functions from on here, like put a product on hold or move a pallet with a drag and drop from, say, a reserve storage to a value-added services area, just as an example. Our customers truly love this function, and saves you a lot of time and very quickly understand what's going on in your operation. Another important thing to talk about is what Softeon calls our dynamic pick routes. If you think about an order pick and all the variables that are involved, what is the order type? What is the channel or customer type? Where is the inventory going to come from? What are the resources that are currently available right now? What pick strategy am I going to use? Is it discrete picking, batch picking, cluster, zone, etc.? And data collection technologies and scripts that I'm going to use. Is it RF? Is it lights? Is it voice? Scanning, et cetera, et cetera. There winds up being hundreds or thousands of different combinations that are involved there. So how do you make sense of that? Well, we do it with our what we call our pick routes, where we work with our customers to configure 4 or 5 in some facilities, 6 or 8 in others, 10 to 12 in more. That are all different ways that orders can be picked along all those variables that I talked about. And then our pick route engine dynamically selects and assigns a pick to one of those multiple, say, line items on an order to different pick routes based on what has been pre-configured, as well as what the conditions in the warehouse are right now. So we talked about that condition and event, or you see there that condition and event monitor. So if there's upstream or downstream processes for a given pick route type that are congested, if there's alternative routes available, we may dynamically route it to the second choice rather than the first choice, just if that makes some sense to you there. So this gives you tremendous flexibility to very precisely define how you want your picking execution to work without any modifications, which is in an area that you still see from many vendors, a lot of mods. And then importantly, give you flexibility over time. So if you want to get into e-commerce, we've had customers do this. They just create a new pick route called e-commerce, configure those attributes that I talked about there, and they're up and running in very little time. So it gives you great precision early on and gives you great flexibility over time as change and operations continue. So again, I'm covering all of this very rapidly here because of the limited amount of time. So we're going to jump right into this notion of warehouse execution systems, or WES. What is a WES? It provides a variety of different functions. It gives you real-time visibility to throughput, bottlenecks, and events that are happening in your facility at a much deeper level than most WMSs do today. Direct management and optimization of a wide variety of picking subsystems. We'll talk about that. And then advanced, very configurable optimization for things like order batching, how orders are released, picking and replenishment. Workload balancing to maximize equipment utilization and the flow of goods across those systems. And then automated order release based on service commitments, shipping schedules, carrier cutoff times, real-time condition monitoring, so that you're making sure all the work that needs to be done for a day is done in a day. And this is really the foundation of what Gartner also has called the autonomous WMS. And then we actually use simulation to plan, replan, and allocate resources. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of those as we move forward here in this presentation. So what's the fundamental value prop of WES? It's still a little mysterious to many folks. It enables customers to meet companies to meet customer demand and service commitments at least possible cost, at least possible operating cost. It doesn't mean you couldn't automate some process and lower costs or something else. It means right now, what's the most effective way to execute this work? And what's the way to do it that's going to ensure it meets customer service commitments? That's what a WES can do. It significantly shrinks the gap between what I would call the theoretic throughput of a facility or a given process and what is actually realized. Often there's a gap there, of course. Sometimes we can completely eliminate the gap, but we're certainly going to be able to shrink that gap to get more true performance along the lines of what the system was designed for. And it does provide a single system for management and control of fulfillment across the DC, whether that's an automated DC where WES kind of came from, or in our case, not only automated DCs, but manual DCs or something halfway in between. And some great success even in manual environments in terms of greatly improving productivity through WES capabilities. This is just some quick examples of different things we can do. This is a very advanced dashboard of what's going on across many different processes in the warehouse in terms of completion of work status, et cetera. And what's cool is, important to note, is that this is not only for like supervisors and managers to look at. The same data that's driving this dashboard is what the WES is using to make decisions about where to put work and where to allocate resources and things like that. So it serves a double purpose function. So I talked about that direct integration with the picking subsystems. We have our own voice solution. It's an app you simply download and configure to your particular workflow. But other types of semi-automation or light automation, smart carts, pick to light, put walls, increasingly popular. Mobile robots, of course, lots of interest. We don't need any other software to do this. This is the key point, because when you add the other software and these systems operate like in silos, and they don't take full advantage of the information that's available in WMS to make smarter decisions. Okay, and this is what we can do. It provides tremendous flexibility. For example, like mobile robots, we can have robots from multiple manufacturers, both now or down the road, working under one platform, not siloed platforms by each mobile robot vendor, which is critical to maximize effectiveness and picking the right robot for the right task, and being able to add a robot over time. If 2 years from now another model comes out that you like or want to add in, you can just add it into the platform. This is the benefits of this type of approach that we've taken, rather than being locked into the specific software that any of these vendors is providing. And I talked about simulation a little bit here. This is just kind of a made-up example, but we'll take at the beginning of the day or the shift, some work is known, some work is unknown, but we'll simulate what the rest of the day is going to look like by hour there, 1,300 hours, 1,400 hours, et cetera. And we'll do that. We'll do that for as work moves from less known to more known, but it allows you to plan out what that data is going to look like versus the resources and capacities that you have for the day. A whole nother topic on this in terms of dynamic allocation of resources as the day proceeds, et cetera. But it's a very powerful set of tools for labor and resource management in your building. And then just kind of wrapping it up with a couple or slide, I think, just on what is distributed order management. It's a tool that allows companies to very precisely define and dynamically execute both their business and their fulfillment strategies, and to adapt those over time. There's never been a tool like this in the supply chain, in my opinion, in terms of the flexibility and precision using natural language type rules to define exactly how you want these things to work. And then over time, if there's a change, you can easily make those changes without any code programming whatsoever. This is a very powerful tool, very popular, of course, in omni-channel commerce, but we have a number of B2B customers as well. Something we'd really love to talk with you about. What does it do? It provides very granular real-time visibility to inventory across an extended network, not only your own network, but potentially vendors for things like vendor drop ship, or even customers or channel partners. And then it performs fulfillment orchestration at the network level. WMS and WES provide that orchestration of fulfillment at a node or facility level, DC level. DOM does that at the network level by picking the right sourcing point. If you're in the retail game at all, DOM provides rapid enablement of e-fulfillment processes like buy online, pick up in store, curbside pickup, store fulfillment, vendor returns, vendor drop ship, et cetera. And then it manages a whole set of different complex order policies in terms of how you handle back orders and subscription business if you're in that, and inventory allocation by customer, by channel, by other priority, et cetera. And then in the end, it's going to pick the best sourcing place that meets customer commitments and service agreements while considering network capacities and constraints, and doing that at the least possible fulfillment cost, and does it for both B2B and B2C. So that's a whirlwind tour of Softeon's supply chain execution platform. Again, we'd be happy to talk with you in more detail, both outside of ProMat, or certainly at our booth in the exhibit hall area. We'll leave this open for questions for whatever time remains, and I certainly hope you got, I realize I covered a lot of ground in a little bit of time, but certainly hope you got a good feel for what we bring to the market, and I would love to have a conversation about your needs and opportunities soon, when it makes sense for you. Thank you.